Hello, everyone. I'm Steve from VALHARTV, and today I'll be reviewing Rings of Power Episode 4. So this episode starts out with Míriel, Queen Regent Míriel, dreaming about the destruction of Númenor. And when she's startled awake, she's visibly shaken by this dream. And we'll find out why later on in the episode. And as we go through, we end up seeing Tamar give a big speech about like the dangers of like the elves and things like that taking their jobs. So he's basically trying to start a riot, and for whatever reason, because he's like, there's one elf on here, so there's going to be more elves taking all our jobs. And I was like, yay, immigrant elves taking our jobs. Whoa, no, kind of a roll your eye moment. And I don't know why they did it, because I know he was mad that Halbrand beat him up and his friends, but they ganged up on him. Yes, he stole. They should have just turned him in instead of trying to fight him, because they wouldn't have done it if they had beaten him up instead of him doing that to them. So it's basically just revenge and stuff. But they start calling Míriel an elf lover and things like that, and then the other guy comes out. Pharazôn shows up, and Pharazôn, and he reassures them that that's not going to happen, that she's going to get rid of the elf and all of that, and I was just kind of like, okay, cool, can we move on, because I want to actually get to some good plots and stuff. And we end up getting a scene where Galadriel ends up going to Míriel, and she points out that Halbrand is the lost heir in exile to the southern kingdoms, or to the southern lands and everything. And she's like, bring your army and let's go fight for these guys and fight with the elves again and release this guy, And she's like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. He has to stand judgment because he got in a fight. So now we got to pass judgment on him. And she's like, well, then I'm going to take it to the king, because he's the one who really holds power, not you. And Míriel turns around and is like, jail time for sedition. And yeah, so she gets put in jail. And this is probably the best part about the whole show, or about the whole episode, that Halbrand literally makes fun of Galadriel and compares her to a stallion just charging in and bowling everything over in her path, because that's all she knows how to fight is like goblins and orcs and or whatever else, and trolls. And she gets super mad about it, but he's like, stop and think. And she finally ends up doing that. And then we cut to Arondir meeting Adar. And this is where we see that he has a scarred up face, but he's an elf. So he asks him in Elven, like, where he was born, and then he's like, oh, yeah, I was been down that river, all of this stuff. And he's like, I'm going to let you go, and you're going to take a message to the men in taking refuge in the Elven Tower. And we see that he ends up taking off to go do that, and it's basically to tell them that if they give up all the lands, Southlands, and then swear fealty to Adar and Sauron, he's going to let them go. And I was like, oh, okay, so we got a plot movement on that part. But at the same time, like just before he arrives, though, Theo and his friend go back to to their village there to get more supplies, get more food, because apparently people left their food there, like left a whole bunch of food and everything. And I was like, I'm not sure why you would want to leave your food. Like, why would you take other possessions and not food when you need to eat? You can't really eat a chair or things like that. And I'm not saying that's what they took, but it's kind of odd that they left a bunch of stuff there. But again, it's a plot point to get Theo out of the keep so we can see more of the sword hill And we do. We see that the orcs are actually trying to find this, and they figure out that Theo has it and he's from the keep. And Theo ends up getting hurt and saved, and then he later on gets saved by Arondir. And as we're running through the woods, this is where we get the scene from the trailers where he grabs an arrow out of the air before it hurts Theo and then shoots it back, like Legolas. Boom, ah. But the arrows are just flying all over the place. They're not even hitting them. And I understand that people are running and stuff, but, if you're really trying to, like, shoot something, you might want to stop and, try to actually hit it. And, of course, none of the arrows are hitting it, including in the field that they go to, because it's just almost daybreak. And they're not even, like, maybe 40, I'd say, okay, for argument's sake, 40, 50 feet apart. And the arrows are just flying around, just barely landing and not even touching them. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, okay. So this is where, he tells Bronwyn about the ultimatum in the keep and everything. So it's very interesting. And again, the hilt, we learn a little bit more about the hilt, that it's has a significance versus just being able to reform with somebody's blood, because Theo does jam it into his arm and he gets the mark of Sauron or whatever on his arm now. So now he's one of them or something. This is another mystery that we may or may not see wrapped up this season, but it kind of seems like it might, because of the fact that every time we get one mystery, it just, the next episode, it's, so that's what it was. As we see with Elrond returning to Celebrimbor, who, like, he reflects on how Elrond's father once said that the future, that Celebrimbor's future would be held by Elrond, and they're thinking that the dwarves are hiding something from him, like Durin is, because Durin and his people have literally been very shady about stuff, and they've been avoiding him. So when he goes back to Khazad-dûm, he talks to Durin's wife, and she's lying to him too, because he's like, oh, I see some tools over there, but he's going over to do this. And then we end up finding out what's in the box, and it's mithril. But apparently it's very, very hard to mine. Like, it's really really bad to mine or something. So the king is really kind of restricted mining of it, because they don't really know how to mine it properly. And then there's a cave-in in the mine shaft where Elrond follows. He doesn't really follow, but he goes because he's listening and trying to find out where people are going. So he goes to this old mine shaft, finds the secret door, and goes in. And Durin's, ends up telling him, after he takes an oath to secrecy, that what they found, and it literally captivates Elrond, because he's like, it looks like it's illuminated from the inside, but you can see by the way he's looking at it, he's just all like, oh, my precious type thing, and I kind of was like, oh, Smeagol vibe, oh, great. But maybe not, I don't know. It's just he seems a little more captivated than he should be by it. And really they, like, I do love the whole dwarf scenes and stuff like that, because I like the architecture in this show. Like, the places are really my favorite part about this series, is because they're beautiful. I mean, this show is expensive, and it looks it. The people, not so much. I'm not really into all the stuff that they do, especially with Galadriel, who is still annoying. She's not relatable, and it really shows that this show has kind of poor writing, because when they go to take her out of the cell, they're like, we're going to escort you to a ship tonight and get you off the island, period, end of story. Galadriel takes down 5 armed guards, and these are kind of like bigger guys than her, and she just is like, boop, 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 done. Puts them all in a cell, and she's like, see ya. And the guys are like, hey, Bob. Yeah, Frank. What just happened, Bob? I don't know, but I like it in here. This is a nice cell. We should stay here. Yeah, you're right, Fred. We should. All right, let's just stay. And it's like, dude, are these guys incompetent? Really? That she's that great at what she's doing? I mean, I know that elves are like agile and things like that, especially from playing Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, if this was a Dungeons and Dragons, yes, I mean, she'd be rolling, she'd literally have to roll anywhere from, I mean, depending on what her dexterity is and what she's trying to do, you know, like 19s and 20s, just to be able to be like, boop, boop, boop. Everybody's in there, just shut and lock the door, peace out, you know, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute here. I mean, I'm like, really? That's not believable. So again, that's kind of poor writing on that. And she takes off and she finds out that the king is bedridden, and that's how far he's declined in health. And then Míriel shows her I'm gonna mispronounce this name. A Paleontirth, I believe it is. Paleontir is what it is, and she sees the flood. When she touches it, Galadriel's like, "Oh well, these things show like many things and stuff, some that may never come to pass." And she's like, "This is just another thing. You got to have faith." And now Míriel doesn't have faith until she goes and sends Galadriel to the ship, and the petals of the white tree fall while she's sailing away. And this is a huge omen to them, because they have a saying from the faithful that if the petals fall, it's something you don't take lightly, because they never fall from this tree, because the tree was created from the tears of the Valinor. So I thought that was very interesting, you know, that they did that. And then they asked for volunteers to sail to the west to help escort Galadriel back and to protect the Queen Regent as they go and fight. And I was like, you're not going to take an army? I mean, I get you want volunteers so people don't, you know, start a revolt and stuff and, you know, get you out of power. But still, is there, like, no army to take either? So hopefully we'll see an army. But if not, I mean, these are a bunch of people who, I mean, do they, you know, I mean, they're carpenters, they're masons, you know, they're blacksmiths, things like that. I mean, hopefully they all know how to fight just like their ancestors did, but we'll see, you know. And that's basically the end. But again, this show really kind of suffers just from slow plot. There isn't much world building now at this point. They're just showing you different little Easter eggs like the Mithril and the Palantir and stuff like that. So to get you hooked into it. Again, my favorite parts about these are the locations. They're awesome. I would give this episode at least 6.5 out of 10 again. We don't get a huge amount of plot in this. We don't even see the half-foots. The half-foots are, you know, the hobbits, basically, in this. So we don't get that plot moving forward either. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this. If you guys like what I do, please hit the like button and subscribe. Take care for now.